Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad adada kamalillahi wa kama yaliku bikamalihi. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Maulana Muhammad an-nuri dzati wa sirri sari fi sairil asma'i was sifat wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله مرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Alhamdulillah. Today we are gathered because with the intention to complete the recitation, the reading from this book, this beautiful work of Imam Al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu. We are going to complete from page 44 onwards first because we haven't finished the full advice of page 44. All right, and those of you who have just joined us or have not joined us for a long time and is following us after a long hiatus, all right, don't worry, I just summarize what the chapter about the portion we are covering now. Page 44 is mentioned here, all right, page 44 is mentioned that preaching that is different from this is a burden for he who speaks and he who listens. Now, preaching, so he was talking about, so what kind of preaching is forbidden? Preaching that doesn't connect to the hereafter, a preaching for a worldly matter. So you can be preaching about, you can have the world as a subject, but if the intention is the hereafter, that is still praiseworthy. All right. So, for example, the premise is talking about how to be an excellent worker, all right, an excellent colleague or excellent contributor at work. That can be the premise. You're talking about work, and work is dunya. But then if you can connect the realities of working well to the excellence you get in the hereafter by virtue of you being upright, by you being righteous, by you being compassionate, and because of that you get rewards in the hereafter, then that talk is praiseworthy. But what is not allowed is when you actually premise your talk on a worldly matter and has nothing of the hereafter. When you preach to people, all right, and you talk to them about worldly matters, but that worldly matter does not contribute to the betterment of your realities in the hereafter, that is a kind of preaching that is disallowed. What more if you are talking on the premise of hereafter, but you seek to gain the rewards of this world? Right? Allah says in the Quran, Ulaika alladhina ishtarau dhalalata bil huda. All right, you make a transaction. All right, so where your guidance that you have, all right, you sell it off, so that in return you get falsehood, all right, or you sell off, all right, you sell off the reality, the wonders of you sell off the rewards of the hereafter to get the praise in this world. So that is not allowed. So that is in fact that is deceiving. So you make people believe you're talking about akhirat. You're talking about akhirat, but then the outcome is for them to love the world more than they should. All right, for them to be more invested in the world, for them to feel that the world is the end of all things, for them to forget totally about accountability, even though your premise is talking about akhirat. So be mindful. All right, so one of the worries today is that you're talking a lot about akhirat, but what is the outcome? Yourself. What is the outcome? Your wealth. What is the outcome? Your fame. What is the outcome? The total detachment from akhirat. That is ironical, and that is actually sinful to do so. So the second thing that you should be aware, that you should stay away from, is preaching, all right, for your sake, for personal gains. So two premises. One, the content itself. The content and outcome must not be for worldly matters. It must be connected to the hereafter. And secondly, when you preach, it is preaching to call people to Allah, not preaching to people to come to you, so that you benefit from it, so that it flatters your ego, all right, so that it raises, it exalts your sense of self-worth. All right, you are supposed to exalt Allah's name by calling people to Allah, not calling people to you in Allah's name. That's deception. Okay, and he says that in fact it has been called a ghaul or a ghost. and the devil that snatches people away from the path and destroys them. Why? What's about Gaul? And our community likes to talk about Gauls, all right? About ghosts, all right? The thing about Gaul, or you're talking about an evil spirit. Let's put it as evil spirit, a Gaul or an evil spirit. All right, an evil spirit, they either deter. So spirit manifests itself in two forms. All right. So one is its physical form. So you bump into an evil spirit. All right, and then it deters you from the intention that you're seeking to get. All right. So that's why it's not a good thing for you to watch a lot of horror movies. We like to watch horror movies. All right, especially my community. All right, everything they produce horror movies. It's not good. Why? Because it deters you from doing things. I know of people who don't do tahajjud or they don't do qiyamul lail. Why? They are scared that the jinn will join them in their congregation prayers. They are scared to wake up at night. Why? They are worried in their own house that the ghost might appear while they're doing their prayers. That stems from a fear that is created. So that's a gaul. All right, a gaul has the ability to physically deter you from doing praiseworthy acts. Another thing that a gaul or evil spirit does is that this is the more worrying one that the Prophet says, "Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurinas." They create uncertainty in your hearts. This one is not sin, it's the unseen. The one that is seen deters you physically. The one that is unseen, they destroy you internally. It makes you slovenly, it makes you lazy, it makes you proud, it makes you arrogant, it deceives you. So these are gaul. So all these stems from it is when you are someone who pursues worldly matters. All right, when you decide to actually use the hereafter in pursuit of worldly gains. If you preach to people for the sake of the worldly matters per se, or for the total acceptance of people in their eyes, all right, when you do that, it's like a ghost. Why? It deters you from the right path. All right, if your intention is wrong, it deters you from the right path, getting Allah's reward. All right, and at the same time, also when it possesses you, you are not aware of it. So there are two things that we should be mindful of. When you're calling people, when you are deceived, all right, one of the things you should be aware is that what the devil does to you when you don't have the right intention to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that when you're walking a path, there's in the form of an evil spirit. All right, this is like a metaphor. An evil spirit, they deter you. So someone who is deterred or someone who changes their course is bad. But it is not bad as someone who walks on the wrong path and thinks he's on the right path. Someone who sees a ghost and they flee. Right, you're walking and then you see a ghost appear before you. All right, an evil spirit that appears before you, you'll flee. But you might travel the same correct. Means you're on the right path, but the ghost appears before you, so that deters you from going on the right path. You take another path that is wrong. Now, that will not deter you in another time to say, I will try to go it another time, maybe in the daytime where there's less chance of a ghost happening. Means that if you're deterred with a physical presence, right? For example, someone who is aware that he's doing something wrong, all right? So Imam Ghazi cautions, right? If you are aware that you're doing something wrong, it is bad. But at least you are aware that you're doing something wrong, you will repent and you will try to go on the right path again. So next day, when the ghost is not there in the daytime, as of now, 10 a.m., you walk that path again, right? You will not walk the same path at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or 12 at the witching hour. So these people, while they might fall into deception, they will correct themselves. The worry is that gaul that possesses you inside. The one that you're not aware of, that you think that you're riding on the right path. You think that by selling the religion for your own name, for your own pride, you think that you're doing it right. You think that Allah is on your side. Why? Because I get more followers, my life becomes better, I become wealthier, I become more popular, I don't say anything wrong, I have not fallen into illness, all right? And I still pray 5 times a day. And I'm saying Allah's name. Even though I'm saying it to gain for personal gains, nothing happens to me. And you walk down that path. There's no physical gaul before you. There's no physical ghost before you. But it's inside you and you're not aware of it. And this is the greatest worry. This is the greatest worry. When you fall before Allah, not knowing that you have fallen. You're going on a free fall, but you're not aware of it. This is the greatest worry. That's why every day, as a remedy against this, one of the things that the Prophet teaches us and the scholars teaches us, every morning you start your day with reciting 3 quls. Qul huwallahu ahad thrice, Qul a'udzu bil falaq thrice, Qul a'udzu bin nas thrice. All right, al-ikhlas, al-falaq, an-nas 3 times each. All right, every morning before you start this to protect yourself. All right, to protect yourself physically from the physical gaul before you, all right, or from that gaul that you don't see that's within yourself. Okay. People must flee from such a preacher because the mischief that he makes in their religion cannot be achieved by Satan himself. Every time you notice someone who's talking about the akhirah, but then he's taking you closer to the dunya. Someone who talks about akhirat and then takes you closer to the dunya, be mindful. How do you know it? You self-reflect. That's why when you attend classes, when you attend gatherings, it is not just attending physically. Do not just be there and being passive. You must be, as much as the session might be one dimension, in the sense that I'm the one talking and you're one listening. It might be one direction, but inside you must be filtering. You must be actually reflecting. You must be actually contemplating. Every time someone says to you something about the akhirat, all right, do not just be enticed. Oh, this guy, he memorizes the Quran, mashallah. It's so impressive. That's not. Where is the Quran taking you? It's not about what is said, but what is the outcome inside you. So it's not just about, oh, this guy, mashallah, I like this Ustaz. Why? He memorizes the Quran. Some people are like that. Oh, so many Quran, so much hadith, so impressive. No, you're impressive by the words. But where have the words taken you? By the end of that session, has that word, those Quranic verses and the hadith taken you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If you're just there to impress, you can go anywhere and get impressed by anything. But where does it take you? Someone can be talking about the world. All right. In fact, most of the prophets matter first when he teaches. He's talking about the world. All right. The prophet talks about the hereafter. He talks about the end of times. He is describing the world. It's a world talk. But then it's a worldly talk that reminds you of the realities that you might face in the hereafter. That one matters. Right. So it is very important. No, Sheikh Ahmad Sa'ad, he used to share with us about life is like a train ride. Talking about a train ride is talking about the world. It's from one station to another station. So life is a departure from one station to another station. And he tells us that every station that you are at, all right, be sure to not rush off to go to the next station. Appreciate where you are at that station before the train moves off. All right. So when you stop at when the train stops at a particular station, appreciate what you see, because every station, all right, is distinct in one way or another. All right. For example, if I'm taking a train from Admiralty, the reality is that Admiralty is quite different from what you see at Sun Plaza. All right, at Sembawang. And Sembawang and the next stop and the next stop, they, even though it's one line, they have different realities. And you reach Yishun, it's going to be more different. If you enter into the tunnels, it'll be different. So every stop, appreciate it. And he's talking about life. Life is short. From this world to the hereafter, all right, there are stations. So make sure that you make the best out of each station, so that your life in this world becomes worthwhile, so that it becomes something that you take, and then you benefit from it in the hereafter. So it's talking about the world, but you benefit in the hereafter. So this kind of talk is something that you can take and you can appreciate. But if you hear someone talking about the world for the sake of the world, or talking about the hereafter in exchange for the world, that is problematic. Okay? He who is able, so the shaitan, because by virtue of the shaitan, you see shaitan, you immediately know to steer away. But someone who speaks in the name of, using the name of the prophet, using the name of truth, shaitan even cannot achieve that. Imam Ghazali says, he who is able and powerful true enough should bring him down from the pulpit and prevent him from continuing his activities, because this is included in the framework of enjoining good and forbidding evil. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiyallahu anhu wa karamallahu wajhahu, Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, what he used to do was that when he was the Khalifa, when he was the Amirul Mu'minin, all right, and when his capital was moved to Basra, and Basra was a place that was filled with scholars. So it was a place that was a haven for scholars. All right, Basra. All right. He will go around and inspect on the content of people's presentation. All right. So he will rebuke people. So some examples of when he rebuked a particular person. All right. One person he was preaching. He was talking a lot about the hellfire, which is the hereafter. But he didn't moderate it with Allah's compassion. And he rebuked that person. He says, you're talking about hellfire. All right, but you're not talking about Allah's compassion. So you give people a lot of fear, but you do not balance it with hope. So he's very mindful of content. He also distinguishes between someone who preaches and someone who storytells. So if someone sits, if he passes by a gathering, all right, and he sees this guy, he's not actually sharing anything beneficial knowledge. He's storytelling. Right? He's storytelling, and people are in awe of his stories. He says, don't preach anymore. Because people are in awe of the stories you tell, but people do not use that story to benefit themselves. Stories, anecdotes are supposed to be part of a greater framework of teaching, of preaching. It cannot be a storytelling per se. All right, so he stops. And there was one occasion, this is Al-Hikam in Atullah Secondary. He talks about how Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib, he goes around asking people, those preachers that are preaching, he asks them two questions. If they can answer these two questions, then they are permitted to continue teaching. If not, he stops them from teaching. He asks them two simple questions. He says, what saves the religion and what destroys it? Two questions only. And these are very pertinent questions for a preacher, because you're telling people what saves and what destroys the religion. And if you can't answer it, it's a very fundamental question. You can't answer it, you're not allowed to teach, because that is the fundamental anyone should teach to anybody. What saves you, what destroys you. So what saves the religion? What saves the religion is wara. All right. What's the word? Scrupulous. Being very careful, being cautious. All right. Being cautious, to not err, all right, into things which are doubtful. Scrupulousness, yes, the word is scrupulousness. So that's wara. Wara saves the religion. Right. So he goes around asking those who can't answer, and these are prominent people. He tells them, don't teach anymore, don't teach anymore. He came to a young preacher, a young chap. Who was his name? Sayyidina Hassan al-Basri. At that time, he was not yet notable. At that time, he was not famous yet. He asked Hassan al-Basri, he says, if you can't answer this, you can't teach. You can't start teaching. Hassan al-Basri replied, what saves the religion is scrupulousness. Wara. Steering away from what is doubtful. This saves the religion. All right. And what destroys religion? Tamak. What does tamak mean? Greed. Greed destroys the religion. He says you can teach. So that was Sayyidina Ali. He goes around, he makes sure, he ensures, all right, that there is quality. All right. He does the QC for teaching. So do not ever believe that, oh, since it's a religious talk, all is good. It's religion. It's a lot of Quran hadith being shared. A lot of Quran hadith being shared. But didn't the Prophet always say in the hadith, he says, all right, he says, Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar. Whosoever deliberately shares, whoever shares something, all right, who lies upon my name deliberately, falyatabawwa maq'adahu minan nar, prepare a place for him, a throne for him in the hereafter, in the hellfire. Whoever lies deliberately in my name. He quotes a hadith, but the hadith is misappropriated to gain for worldly gains. Quotes a verse from the Quran for worldly gains. Set up a place for that person in the throne in the hellfire. So be mindful. Now, the third thing, this is an important thing. The third thing that you should, so if you're going into preaching, if you're going into calling to goodness, that you should forsake is that you should not mingle with the princes and the sultans. That's what Imam Ghazali says. Nor should you see them, for seeing them, sitting with them, and mixing them with them is a great mischief. So let's look at this one. All right. So this one, you must be careful when you read this. Some people just misquote this and say, oh, and put this up on IG and get themselves into trouble. He's talking to who? He's talking to his student, who is on the path, who's seeking to get into the path of teaching. So in your teaching, in your early days of teaching, if you are starting to teach, do not make your first intention to impress the sultans, to impress the leaders. This comes from the previous point. You are not seeking to impress. What more to impress people out there? You don't seek to impress them. All right. So what do you mean? You mingle with them, you hang out with them, and you find it's an honor every time you share. Oh, I was with so and so, so and so. And that is a sign of not so good an intention. Every time you see someone, oh, I want to use it, then that shows it. All right. That shows. So be mindful. All right. If you are impelled to do this, refrain from praising and speaking well of them. Means that if you come into a state, because at the end of the day, you must understand what is the ruling about being people of power when you're preaching, that you still have to do so, because the Prophet says that, all right, the best of jihad, the best of struggles is for one to speak the truth in the face of tyranny. So if you see a leader making a mistake, then it is your responsibility to correct them. It's your responsibility. So it's not wrong to advise. It is not wrong to correct. It is not wrong to provide opinions. But what you must be mindful of is your principles, your intentions, and in your action, you do not try to praise and speak well of them, trying to curry flavor them. No. You speak matter of factly. In fact, to anybody for that matter. You don't try to score cookie points with anybody when you do da'wah. Means that if you say it, if it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. And if someone accepts your saying, then alhamdulillah. If they don't accept, it's not an issue for you, because your purpose is to deliver the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Acceptance is in the hands of Allah. Delivery, you have to be mindful of it. Okay? And whoever prays to Allah to lengthen their lives is actually desiring that Allah be obeyed in his name. So the caveat here is that he's saying that, all right, for Allah is angered when the wrongdoer and the unjust is praised. So the caveat, to be mindful when you read this, is not talking about leaders in general. He's talking about evil, oppressive, wrongful leaders in general. So if that leader is good, if that leader is not known to do any evil, and you have to and seeks your advice, no wrong to do so. But even in doing so, if a proper rightful leader, you still hold your ground. You still are principled. You are still not seeking their praise. You are not eager to flatter them, nor flatter them. No, not at all. You are just seeing as it is. But if they are evil, all right, stay away. If they are evil and you have to address them, all the more you shouldn't praise them. So the ruling is the same. But here he's talking about in general evil rulers. But even if you're dealing with rightful rulers, still be mindful. Sayyidina Imam Malik, our Imam Malik, all right, radiallahu anhu, all right, Harun al-Rashid brought his entourage. All right, bro, he sent a messenger to Imam Malik. Can you come to my palace, all right, to deliver a lesson? When I come to the level to the lesson. And Imam Malik says in this famous way, he says, Al-ilmu ya'ti wa la yu'ta. All right, knowledge is sought. All right, knowledge is sought after, it doesn't seek the seeker. He says that you come, knowledge, you come to where the knowledge is, not the knowledge looks for you. All right, so the knowledge itself, you have to seek. All right, you have to seek knowledge, not the knowledge. You do not make knowledge seek you, because knowledge is more important than you are. You are not as important than the knowledge. All right, so Harun al-Rashid, to his credit, he came. And when he came, there was not the end of the story. This is Imam Malik. Imam Malik. All right. He was not faced by leaders. All right. When he came, so they were preparing seats for Harun al-Rashid. Or preparing seat for him. And he says, no, in my gathering, I'm the one that is, the attention is on me. I'm the teacher. You sit like everyone else. So you can imagine Imam Malik. If there's, you should make it an aspiration to see these people. These people who have no comms about anything. It's the Sultan. This is the leader. It's not just the leader of the country. He's the leader of the Muslim world at that point of time. He comes to Imam Malik. Imam Malik says, sit. No special places. You sit where everyone is seated. If you're late, you sit behind. If you're early, well, you have a place in front. That's it. That's Imam Malik. This is Imam Malik when he reads a hadith. An animal that is poisonous comes in and beats him. He doesn't stop from reciting the hadith until the hadith is done. All right. And then he turns to the wound, and a student comes to him and says, yeah, Imam Malik. All right, why is it that you do not stop? Because it's permissible to stop. He says, I don't feel it right. I don't feel respectful to stop when I'm reciting a hadith from him, and shows a point and indicates to the Prophet ﷺ's maqam. All right, this is Imam Malik. Okay. The fourth thing is not to accept. The fourth thing is not to accept anything of the gifts of the princes, though you know it is permissible, because converting what they possess corrupts the religion. So it's not here the issue is that it's not the issue of the Sultan, it's yourself. So you notice Imam Ghazali is safeguarding his student. So he's safeguarding his students. You're asking me, I says, no, if they give you gifts, even when it's permissible, when people give you, in the general principle, if people give you something, you have to accept it. Sayyidina Umar used to rebook someone. Someone was offered something and he rejected. And Sayyidina Umar rebuked him. If someone gives you something, you accept it. And this is also the advice from my late teacher. All right. If someone gives you something and there's no wrong in what he gives to you. All right. So yesterday, Brother Irwan and Sister Zura treated me at 21 Raja. If they offer you something, take it. But I can't convince my wife about that. I say, just take it. They're treating you. All right. Just take it. And my wife and thanks to Brother Irwan, the argument went all the way home up till this morning. Why you have to pay them back? We have to give them back the money, man. They're treating us, it's expensive. They're treating us, man. Right? They're treating us. We wanted to treat them, but they made the payment. Take it. In principle, all right? They are not sultans. If they are sultans, we can talk about this topic. All right. So in general, if someone gives you something, take it. Because sometimes, why? This always happens during Idul Fitri. Especially the elderly. And you give them money, right? I don't want, right? Because why? When you do that, it embarrasses the giver. You put him in a position. I've seen $50 notes being thrown around between two elderlies. So my grand aunt and my grandmother, all right, they were trying to, they give money to each other and then they were like reject it. And I was the child saying, come on, none of you taking it out. We're going to take the $50, man. Come on, someone has to take it. All right, it was being thrown around. No one wants to take it. The proper way is to just take it. There's the adab. It's the same for anything. If you go to someone's house on Idul Fitri, whatever they serve you, eat it. Have my green curry. It's not green curry, it's asam pedas, but it's green. Eat it. Whatever people give you, you eat it. So that's the basic ethic. But here is an exception. Why? Because, says Imam Al-Ghazali in the book, it results in compromise to and tolerance of wrongdoing, consideration of their status, and agreeing with their oppression. So in the sense that when you give advice, all right, all right, and they give you something in return, even though they are just rulers, But then one day, if they do mistake, your conscience will be affected. Why? Because I've taken from them. Now they do something wrong. What will I have the guts to actually correct them? This goes for anything in life in general. For example, your leaders, your superiors, all right, they offer you something. Unless it's for everybody. I'm giving everyone a treat. Fine. All right, everyone, the lazy one, the hardworking one, everyone, okay, it's a staff treat. Okay, it's a state committee. I'm going to treat the whole committee. Fine. But if they treat you specially, all right, take you out, especially give you a treat, you might want to reconsider that. You can say, oh, can I bring someone else? Can we open it for the whole committee, for all department instead of myself alone? Why? Because one day he or she is giving you a gift for your work. All right. But one day you worry that gift that they gave you will stifle yourself from actually correcting them when you do something wrong. That gift has that effect. So it is quite ironical. In certain segments or certain sections or in certain parts of the world, you set a price when a leader calls you to present before them. You set a price. Don't make yourself that. You come, and so all the scholars, when they are given to advice, they advise, and they take nothing from the leaders. They take nothing from the leaders. And they take nothing from these people. All right? Because I get enough reward from Allah SWT already. I get enough. I don't need to take anything from you. Because I don't want to, one day, I don't want to be in a compromised position. Even though the intention of giving the gift might not be to compromise you. They genuinely want to give you. But then you worry that one day you will be compromised because of this reality. All right? All of this corrupts the religion, and the least of the evil is that when you accept their gifts and benefit from their world, you become fond of them. You start to fall to the previous point. You start to clamor for their attention and their presence. All right? And whoever loves another obviously loves the prolonging of his life and presence, and in loving the continuance of his life, of the oppressor, there's a willingness to continue the oppression of the worshippers of Allah the Exalted. All right? What can be more harmful to the deen and hereafter than to one destruction of this world? All right, so that is especially in the face of oppressors. When oppressors offer you something, then it's a no. Because if you accept from them, they will start to see as a green light, but whatever they do is acceptable. Right? So over the world, over time, over in history, all right, oppressors always try to shield themselves, justify their positions by putting a scholar before them. Oh, this scholar, he accepts me. This scholar, he takes from me. Right? And it compromises the scholar. Beware that you may be deceived by the suggestion of Satan or by the words of people who say, it is better to accept their dinars and dirhams and distribute them among the poor and the destitute. For they spend in the way of wrongdoing and disobedience, while your spending on the weak is better than their spending. So he says, take their money, man, and spend it on the needy. All right. So he says, some people say, it's okay, just take it. And then you give it. You don't have to keep it. You give it. Verily, the cursed one has cut off the necks of many people by this evil whispering, and its mischief is excessive. Why is this problematic? Ideally, it's perfect. Okay, I'll take, and then I give. But will you get to stage? There are two stages here. Remember, there are two stages. The first stage is to accept. The second stage is to give. So Imam Al-Ghazali is cautioning us, because the devil works in very subtle ways. All right? Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudurin nas. He whispers doubt into your chest. What does the devil do? Okay, you accept from them. You accept from them. What makes you think that the next step is something that is achievable for you? You can say all you want now. Oh, I will intend to take now. Yes, I will take it. You don't understand. I'm going to take this. I'm going to give to the needy and to the poor. I plan to do that. That's your plan. But once you take it, the devil already has his plan. His plan is to deceive you. What does the devil say? Okay, I know you are going to give to the needy, but you still deserve some credit. Take some for yourself and give some to the needy. And then your deliberation is about how much you take for yourself, how much you give to the needy. And then you see how you become deceived, like seeing the ghost in the middle of the path. Now, instead of just wholeheartedly giving with no doubt in your heart, now you start to be meticulous in calculating how much for you to keep, how much for you to give. All right. So let it be known that in jurisprudence, there is no harm in taking. But here, he's talking about the essence of it is to be careful and to be mindful. And in being careful and being scrupulous is best to stay away. The Prophet said the maxim, Da'ma yaribuka ila ma la yaribuk. All right. Leave what is doubtful to what is less doubtful. All right. So this is what he advised us against. Now, Imam Ghazali says in next page, all right, as for the 4 things that you should do, they are as follows. All right, as the 4 things you should do. So this is religion. You must, and I say this many times, as much as you tell people what not to do, you must tell them what you have to do. This you must know in any stage. If you're talking to your family members at workplace, always know that whatever you tell people not to do, you must also tell them what they have to do. There must be there's a model to show that this is the wrong model. So what is the right model? Which is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all right, he is a model. Laqad kana lakum fi Rasulillahi uswatun hasanah. Best of example. There is the example of Fir'aun. Allah says there's the example of Musa. There's the example of Namrud. There's also the example of Ibrahim. There is the example of Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, Umayyah bin Khalaf. There is the model of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is important. Modeling is very important. Alternative is very important. So one of the reasons why oppression is widespread is because we don't provide an alternative. You say this is oppression, this is oppression, this is oppression. So if you see realities of the world today, this is oppression. We stand against oppression. Now, what have you got to offer to show as a model of someone who is not oppressive? What is the opposite of oppression? Justice. What is the opposite of oppression? Compassion. Now, if you are going to see, if you can show a model of this is oppression, now your next step is to show what is the model of compassion and justice. So every time a Muslim world points out something of an oppression, the Muslim world must also be prepared to point out the compassion and justice that they have come up with. This is the challenge, and this is the challenge that we have failed. We have not been able to produce a model. We have not been able to produce a model. All right. Yes, our model is the Prophet ﷺ, but we have not been able to produce a model that is based on that. We keep going back to our model is Sayyidina Umar. Our model is Salahuddin. We keep going back to that model. But where is the model now? Who is the model now? Who is the model leader now? If there's a leader in the Muslim world that is fair, that is just, that is compassion, where is that leader now? That is the challenge. And I'm talking about leader here. It's not just talking about at a state level, a leader at a household level, at the work level. So that is our project now. Our project is to generate as many models to show to the world that this is the model we're talking about. You can't be talking about oppression done by one towards the other, but within your own community, you are manifesting the oppression. A father who is concerned about oppression in the Middle East cannot be the same father who is actually oppressing his own family in his own household. So you cannot be hypocritical. Yes, you have pointed out this is oppression. In the Middle East, this is what happened, this oppression. Yes, you have pointed out that. Okay, thanks. But then you cannot be the same person that at your workplace, you are oppressing your subordinate. You give him extra work when he don't deserve to have extra work, when he has done his work fair and square. You reduce him of his appraisal because of this. This is not right. All right, that should be a wake-up call for you to come up with a model. So in the Quran, every time there's an oppression, there's an oppressor, there's evil, there's always good. So where is the model of goodness now? You have identified the bad part. So it is why Imam Ghazali in methodology is like this. 4 things you should avoid, 4 things you should do. There's always the model. So you need to work our way now. The constructive thing we can do now is actually from where we are here in light of what's happening in this world, is to be a good model for people to see. A good Muslim model that is upright. All right, that is upright. Because of the lack of model, we start to quote leaders who are not actually model material. You're talking about oppression, and it says, if this so-and-so leader was alive, all right, if so-and-so leader was alive, so-and-so leader will be able to take on these oppressors. But this so-and-so leader you quoted from the Muslim world was the same so-and-so leader who oppressed his own citizens last time, was responsible for massacres last time, was responsible for oppressing them last time. So why is it that the lack of models means that we have to turn to weak models? I was just reading during the holidays. I spent a lot of time reading about Adolf Hitler. I mean, there is something that fascinates me. All right, not in a way that he's my model, but look at how someone like that with such a bizarre ideology or with a problematic ideology, all right, is turned to as an alternative. All right, because if you are not careful, or if you do not have a proper model, you're going to embrace any model that suits the needs of you at that point of time. So be careful. So that's why we need to continue learning and researching and reflecting so that we have a proper model in place. All right. As a step to stand up against whatever model that we feel is oppressive. All right. First, make your dealings with Allah exalted such that if your own servant acted. What are things you should do? Now here is a very interesting way. All right. He says, first, make your dealings with the exalted such that if your own servant acted in this manner with you, you will be pleased with him and you will not think ill of him nor become angry. Whatever you will not expect from your servant in the metaphorical sense, except not for Allah the exalted, who is your real Lord and Master. What is this? It's simply this. Imagine that you have a servant. What will please you? If you have a servant, what will the servant do that will please you? Now, whatever the servant does that will please you as a master, now you also put yourself as a servant before Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So what will please you? If you have a servant, what kind of servant will please you? All right. One is a servant that doesn't commit wrongs. You like a worker that's efficient, that doesn't go against you. No, not a wrongful worker. All right. So for example, you have a servant, right? If you have a servant that you wake up at 5 a.m., but the servant keeps waking up at 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., taking the liberty to wake up. You won't like that servant. You like a servant that says wake up at 5 a.m., he's up and about at 4 a.m. Or she is about at 3 a.m. Or always ready. All right. So first sign is that you like a servant that doesn't do wrong. All right. That doesn't commit evil. Second, you like a servant that puts in the best effort. You like a worker, right? You like a worker that puts the best effort. Yeah, the worker is not perfect, but he's willing to learn. He's willing to put his best foot forward. You like those kind of workers. Not those who talk a lot and brag a lot. On the first day, already trying to PR a lot of people. All right, trying to establish context, but they can't do work. A lot of talk. But you like those workers that they are willing to work. All right. You like servants that are consistent. It's just not a one-off show. Sometimes they're too eager to impress. All right. The first period of probation period, first 3 months solid. 4th, 5th month after probation, they start to cut corners. No, you like one that is consistent. How good they were for the first 3 months, you see that for the next 20, 30 years, the same consistency. In fact, better. And fourth is someone who is willing to admit their mistakes and make their shortcomings and then become better after that. And the same goes for Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, all right, doesn't like a servant, all right, who blatantly commits sins. You just like to do sins. Just disregard for Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, disregard for your master. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala doesn't like a servant that is slovenly, that don't put in their best effort, that is lazy. Allah says in the Quran, we're talking about hypocrites. وَإِذَا قَامُوا إِلَى صَلَاةٍ قَامُوا كُسَالَى. When they are called to perform their prayers, they do so in a lazy manner, in a slovenly manner. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala likes his servant when they are consistent. All right? They have istiqamah. They're consistently good. Generally, they are good. You're talking about them, out of 10, you give them an 8, 7, 8, 9 rating. Might not be perfect, but they are willing to, and they are consistent. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala likes a servant, when he makes a mistake, he repents. He seeks forgiveness, and he moves on to become better. So that is how you understand it. All right? Second, in all your dealings with people, treat them as you will be pleased to be treated by them, because the iman of a worshipper is incomplete until he loves for all other people what he loves for himself. This is important. This is empathy. This is called ihsan. All right? This is called ihsan. That means that you care. All right? And ihsan means that whatever you feel, so la yu'minu ahadukum hatta yuhibba li akhihi ma yuhibbu li nafsihi. It's a sign of complete faith. Whatever you desire for other people, for yourself, you desire for others as well. Put this to practice every day. What do you desire for yourself when the first thing you wake up in the morning? I desire for myself peace. Then you should desire for others peace. So do not be a reason for peace to be disrupted around you. And where there are places in the world that's far away from you that there's no peace, make dua for peace to be attained. Ask for peace. right? Whatever you desire in the morning when you wake up, in addition to peace, I appreciate a good meal to start the day. Whatever you desire for yourself, you desire for others. So what you desire for yourself? A good breakfast. You look out for your neighbors that might not be up and awake, or they might not have the ability to purchase a good breakfast. You provide for them. All these small little projects, all these small little things to provide. You know, every time you see all these baskers, the blind baskers, the needy ones, come on, just give them something. Whatever you want for yourself. If you are in need of something, you want someone to reach out to you quickly. They are in need of something, reach out to them. Make their day worthwhile. Make their day. Right? Make their day and give it to them in a compassionate manner. All right. Right. There's something you can do. Okay. So Ustaz, they are not going to give to this basker. This singing out of key. That's not the point. He's trying. Who asked you to be a music instructor in the first place? Who told you to be a Singapore Idol judge? All right, Ustaz, it's not I don't want to give him, but his key is off, lah, dude. Key. No ask you to check the key. Just give. All right. Third, if you read or pursue knowledge, this is important. Okay. If you read or pursue knowledge, the importance of outcome. This he reminds us. This is what he says at the start, actually. Third, if you read or pursue knowledge, your knowledge should reform your heart and purify your soul. The outcome of knowledge is a reform of the heart and the purification of soul. So this is important. When you seek knowledge, right, it is not just for the mere attendance of it or going through the motion. Don't feel good about attending good guidance of knowledge. I feel good, I attended, I completed this course, I am certified for this course. No. The true measure of knowledge, if it's beneficial, is that after that, the Prophet says in a hadith, Man izdada ilma, lam yazdad huda, lam yazdad minallahi illa bu'da. Whosoever increases in knowledge, but does not increase in guidance. What does increase in guidance mean? Your deeds do not increase. Your good deeds do not increase. Your mannerisms do not become better. Lam yazdad huda. All right. Lam yazdad minallahi illa bu'da. He has not increased in his guidance, but he increased in his distance with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you seek knowledge, this is the outcome you should get. Am I now closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I a better person? Am I treating my family members better? Some people, the more religious they become, the more distant they are from their families. The more religious they become, the more painful they are to their family members. This is not right. All right. You will, of course, not occupy. So just as if you discover that you have 1 week to live. So he gives this time frame. You have 1 week to live. You will, of course, not occupy yourself studying the science of jurisprudence, morality, principles of jurisprudence, scholastic theology, and the like, because you will know that these disciplines will not help you. What's he saying? He's not saying don't seek knowledge. He's saying the importance of putting that knowledge immediately into action. Do not seek knowledge for the purpose of just accumulating them, but is to activate them. You do not fill up the petrol in your car to just not drive it for next 3-4 weeks. That's going to harm your car, actually. You fill up the petrol in your car so that you can travel the distance and get to a good destination. If you're not going to travel, then don't fill the oil. But then if you don't fill the oil, the car will get damaged. It's just going to be redundant. The engines don't work. So you still need to fill the oil. But if you fill it, don't just keep it. Travel with it. Along the way, if you're traveling, give people a lift. That's the purpose of things. So do not just be keen to just accumulate. For the sake of accumulating, I have this. Oh, you can accumulate all the things. But they must be beneficial. The Prophet says, "Khairukum man ta'allama al-Quran wa 'allamahu." The best among you are those who teach and learn the Quran. You have learned, you have accumulated knowledge. What do you do now? Teach. Don't just accumulate and accumulate. So there are 3 things. You learn, you practice, and you preach. In fact, Imam Ghazali says earlier, one of the conditions for you to be a good preacher is to practice what you preach first. Practice what you preach, practice what you learn. Okay. So what do you do? So when you are having 1 week to live, and the time is short, whatever you have learned, quickly put it into practice. Do not be a learner with no practice. All right. You will rather engage yourself in monitoring the state of your heart and in apprehending the characteristics of your soul, shunning attachment to the world. So it's trying to tell us that at the end of the day, what is the outcome of it? The outcome of seeking knowledge is that you start to actually be more reflective. Some people, most of us, myself included, the more knowledge we seek, the more errors we find in people. The purpose of seeking knowledge is to find more errors in yourself so that you can correct it. All right? So that you can correct it. Purifying your soul from the blameworthy characteristics, occupying yourself with the love and worship of Allah and adopting the praiseworthy characteristics. No day or night passes upon a servant in which his death may not take place. Why? Because death, he says 1 week here. But you never know. All right? We never know that what is written. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا تَدْرِ نَفْسٌ مَاذَا تَكْسِبُ غَدًا وَمَا تَدْرِ نَفْسٌ بِأَيْنَ أَدْرِ. You don't know when you're going to die or which condition. It might just be your return to die in this afternoon or tomorrow morning. All right? So since you're not sure, make sure that whatever deeds you do is translated into action. Next point, the last point is important. This is qana'ah. Fourth, do not accumulate of this world more than what suffices for 1 year. He's talking about planning as well. Plan your finances and have the right mindset. 2 things. Plan. It's good to plan your finances. And it's also talking about the importance of having the right mindset. What's the right mindset you should have? The simplest mindset you should have, and which is the safest mindset, is always find it, always accept, all right? Always find that you have enough. All right, always tell yourself that what you have is enough. Always look out for those who don't have enough. With regards to material pursuits in life, always be thankful for what you have. It's good enough. But always look out for those who do not have enough. So your job is to feel that for myself, there's nothing to add on. You add on to those who don't have much on their plate. My plate is good enough. A life like this is a life that is tranquil. What you have is alhamdulillah. Of course, deeds, you need to add on. Good deeds, yes, it's always not good enough. Add on. But physical, worldly things is good enough. Alhamdulillah, I have this. All right, then I seek to contribute to others. This will help you bridge the... So people say, Ustaz, does that mean that if I work, I have no desire to get promoted? No. You can desire to be promoted, but then the intention is because of your promotion, you seek to make other people's life better. Don't seek to get promotion for your sake. No, you seek to get promotion because you want to, because you believe by virtue of the post you attained, by your promotion, you can make your workplace a better place. You can make your colleague's life a better place. That is permissible. Or you can come up with initiatives to make the place a better place. You don't get promoted for the sake of your own self-reputation, going around and flattering and putting on IG that you got promoted. No. You have the intention to do something. So this is easy. So for yourself, it's good. All right, I'm going to provide for others. But if I'm to provide to others, there might be a platform that I need to climb. Okay, I'll climb that platform so I can help others. No harm in that. But do not make it a personal target that every day that I have to reach this. I have to reach this. All right, without actually reaching something to reach out to others. Okay. As the Messenger of Allah ﷺ never exceeded that for some of his wives and said, "Oh Allah, make the provision of the family of Muhammad sufficient." That's why it is a scholar, all right, in the Qadiri school, all right, in the Qadiri school, he says, all right, "Man arad darruqi," whomsoever desires to be exalted inside of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you get there? Ya fallahu kafi. Let it be known that Allah is enough. All right, so man arada ruqi, whomsoever wants to be raised, wants to be exalted, ya fallahu kafi. Let it be known that Allah is enough. Fahuwa yu'lihi, he raises bitarqi li'a'la, by exalting you to a higher level. Always be enough. That feeling of contentment, will raise you, will elevate your spirit. People have a lot, but they don't feel contented, and they don't feel contented, they will abase. They will go to their base desires. But if you have what you have and you are thankful for it, Allah will raise you multiple fold. All right. And he did not accumulate it for all his wives. Prophet here. In fact, the Prophet used to prepare it only for her whom he knew had weakness in her heart. As for lady of yaqeen, perfect conviction, he did not accumulate for her more than the provision of a day and a half. So the Prophet ﷺ looks, so for those who are still some of the wives that might require, that don't have certainty about being provided for, the Prophet will plan for them for the year to assure them it's planned for. Right? But those of greater faith, of greater belief, Prophet just plans for them for 1.5 days. Because they believe that they have a strong belief that Allah will provide for them. So the point here is to always 2 things, all right? To plan, financially plan. And the basis of your planning is to ensure that you have enough. Do not shortchange your family members. one of the other extremes is that you plan to the point where your family doesn't have enough. No, you plan so that your family has enough. So when you know what's enough, you know that whatever is excess is what you can do to make sure that others have enough. All right, you plan so that you have enough, so that you know that whatever comes extra, you can make sure that others have enough as well. All right, so today we have finished chapter 22, alhamdulillah, which is the bulk of the content. Now we're going to look at the 23rd council. Let's take a 5-minute break. All right, be back in 5 minutes. If your friends are still just woken up, is it okay to join? Yes, now we're going to start on chapter 23rd. All right, now it's 9:55. 10 o'clock, we'll start again. All right, so you take a break now, and then 10 o'clock, we return back to complete this book, inshallah. Okay, so you can tell your friends to join us. It's still not too late because you're going to complete the last 2 chapters.